Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. Sometimes the biggest threats don't come from wars, don't come from politicians, don't even come from nature itself. Sometimes the biggest shock to an economy can come from one single man's decision, one man's vision, one man's bold move. And right now, that man's name is Elon Musk. Elon Musk's moves can shake entire economies because he doesn't operate on a small stage. Everything he does has global consequences. When Musk makes a decision, it isn't just a business adjustment, it's a shockwave that travels across industries, markets, and governments. Think about it. This is a man who tweets one line about cryptocurrency and entire digital markets rise or crash within hours. That's not just influence, that's raw power over the flow of money, the direction of innovation, and the confidence of investors worldwide. Now imagine what that same power looks like when pointed at one of the fastest growing economies on earth. India. It's not a game anymore, it's a storm waiting to be unleashed. India is home to a massive auto sector, one of the biggest in the world, employing millions and generating billions in revenue. Musk steps in with Tesla, offering high-tech electric cars at disruptive prices, and suddenly traditional car makers face a threat they can't ignore. Investors start shifting money into Musk's ventures, Indian auto stocks start to wobble, and just like that, confidence in an entire sector is shaken. And that's not a slow drip. This is the kind of change that happens in weeks, not years, because markets don't wait for factories to adjust. They react instantly to potential disruption. And it's not just car. Telecom is another giant in India, with companies like Jio, Airtel, and Vodafone shaping communication for over a billion people. Musk rolls in with Starlink, promising satellite internet that bypasses traditional telecom infrastructure, and suddenly the biggest players are staring at an existential threat. Investors know what disruption looks like, and the moment Musk makes his move, billions can be wiped off valuations in a matter of days. That's the kind of domino effect his decisions carry. The market doesn't care about loyalty, it cares about survival. Energy, too, is at risk. India still relies heavily on coal and traditional fuels, but Musk represents solar storage and a future that doesn't wait for slow transitions. If he brings his technology and capital into India aggressively, companies that have thrived for decades could find themselves outdated overnight. That means jobs, stock prices, and entire industries thrown into uncertainty, all from one man's playbook of disruption. The truth is, Musk operates at a speed governments and corporations often can't match. That's why his moves can shake entire economies. He doesn't ask permission, he forces adaptation. And when he targets a market as massive as India, the tremors don't stop at the border, they ripple through every sector tied to it. India's auto industry, telecom sector, and energy market are most vulnerable because these are the very pillars that keep the economy running strong. Yet they're also the sectors Elon Musk can disrupt the fastest. Let's start with the auto industry. India has built one of the largest automotive markets in the world, a backbone for millions of workers and a driver of massive exports. But Musk walks in with Tesla, with his global reputation, with cutting-edge electric vehicles, and suddenly the traditional industry looks outdated. Car companies that have relied on fuel engines for decades face a hard truth. The future is electric, and Tesla already owns that space in people's minds. The shift wouldn't just be about cars on the road, it would hit suppliers, mechanics, dealerships, and entire chains of small businesses that depend on the auto market. Musk doesn't need to sell millions of cars right away to cause disruption. All he has to do is signal his entry, and investors will start shifting their money. Indian automakers could lose value in days, long before a single Tesla rolls off an assembly line on Indian soil. Then comes telecom, one of India's most competitive and most critical industries. Companies like Jio and Airtel have been building massive empires, fighting for market share and pushing internet access deeper into every corner of the country. But here's the risk. Musk doesn't play by the same rules. With Starlink, he doesn't need cell towers, fiber lines, or land-based infrastructure. He brings satellites, and that means he can provide internet to remote areas that no company has been able to reach effectively. If people realize they can get faster, more reliable internet directly from the sky without dealing with outages or coverage gaps, then the traditional telecom industry faces a storm. Imagine billions in infrastructure investments suddenly looking outdated. Imagine stocks plunging as customers start shifting to a new system. That's how fast disruption can hit when Musk steps in. And then there's energy. India is still heavily tied to coal, oil, and traditional energy sources. But Musk has built his empire on alternative solar panels, energy storage, and electric solutions. If he partners with the right players or launches a push into India, entire coal and fuel companies could see their relevance questioned overnight. It's not about replacing the system in one day, it's about shifting investor confidence and government focus. Once Musk's model gets traction, markets react instantly and the old ways look like liabilities instead of strengths. Energy is the foundation of every economy, and if Musk tilts that balance, it shakes every connected sector from industry to household. That's why these three areas, auto, telecom, and energy, are the most vulnerable. They are massive, they are central, and they are exactly the kind of industries Musk has disrupted before. And when history shows you a pattern with Musk, you better believe it can repeat itself on an even bigger scale in India. Disruption doesn't wait for stability because innovation moves faster than tradition, and markets respond quicker than governments or corporations can adapt. When a figure like Elon Musk makes a move, he doesn't sit around waiting for the ground to be steady. He thrives on shaking that ground. That's the difference between disruption and slow progress. Traditional companies, especially in a country like India, often rely on planning, regulations, and step-by-step growth. But disruption doesn't care about comfort zones or careful timelines. It comes suddenly without warning and forces everyone to react whether they're ready or not. Take India's auto industry as an example. For decades, it has operated in a stable rhythm: fuel engines, gradual adoption of hybrids, and the beginnings of electric vehicles. But the moment Tesla officially steps in, stability vanishes. Investors won't wait for Indian companies to catch up. They'll shift their money the second they believe Musk has the edge. Customers won't wait for 10-year plans. They'll demand what Tesla is offering now. That's what disruption looks like. It cuts the waiting time to zero and forces change before stability is even possible. The same applies to telecom. Companies like Jio and Airtel have spent years carefully building infrastructure, slowly expanding coverage and competing for dominance. But Musk's Starlink bypasses all that with satellites that deliver internet instantly, even in the remotest areas. He doesn't need to lay cables or negotiate local infrastructure deals. The disruption happens the moment he offers access, and suddenly billions in existing investments look like dead weight. There's no time for stability because disruption doesn't pause for anyone's 5-year plan. Energy is another case. India is still heavily dependent on coal and traditional fuels, and there's a stable ecosystem built around it. But Musk introduces solar, advanced batteries, and scalable renewable solutions. Overnight, what seemed like a stable system starts looking like an outdated liability. Once the world sees that Musk is serious about transforming energy in India, stock prices of traditional companies can sink within days. Again, no time for stability. Markets react instantly to the possibility of being left behind. That's why disruption is dangerous and powerful. It doesn't send a warning before it arrives. It doesn't respect old systems, and it doesn't wait until governments, companies, or people feel ready. Stability is the dream of those who want to keep things the same. But disruption, especially in the hands of someone like Elon Musk, is the reality that forces everyone to move faster, adapt quicker, or risk being wiped out entirely. India's rapid rise makes it both powerful and exposed because with growth comes attention, and with attention comes vulnerability. The world is watching India right now, its booming economy, its vast population, its young and talented workforce, its technology sector that's producing some of the smartest minds on the planet. All of this makes India a powerful player in the global game, no longer just a participant but a contender for leadership. But that same rise, that same spotlight makes it a prime target for disrupt. When you're climbing fast, people notice, and disruptors like Elon Musk see opportunity in the very strengths that fuel your growth. Think about the auto sector. India produces millions of vehicles every year, serving not just its people but international markets. That gives India power, power in trade, power in jobs, power in global positioning. But it also makes it exposed. Why? Because the very size of the industry means it's ripe for disruption. If Tesla plants a flag in India and begins to shift consumer demand toward electric vehicles, the massive traditional industry doesn't just feel pressure, it feels a direct hit. The bigger the market, the bigger the shockwaves when it's disturbed. The same is true for telecom. India has one of the largest mobile and internet user bases in the world. That's power. It means influence, data, reach, and global recognition. But being that big also paints a target on the sector. Musk with Starlink doesn't need to chase small markets. He looks at the largest one. And with India, he sees over 1 billion potential customers. That scale makes it attractive to him, but risky for the companies that dominate today. Their size, once their strength, could become the very reason they're vulnerable to sudden change. Energy is no different. India's rise as an industrial and technological hub has been fueled by energy consumption, much of it from traditional sources. That's power, the ability to keep factories running, cities lit, and growth sustained. But it's also exposure. As Musk pushes solar and renewable solutions, the global narrative begins to shift. Suddenly, India is expected to keep up with the future, not just survive on the present. Investors and governments apply pressure, and industries that once stood as pillars of stability now look like outdated liabilities. So India's rise is a double-edged sword. The power is undeniable. It is building momentum, shaping global markets, and inspiring millions. But that very rise makes it visible, makes it a stage where every disruptor wants to play. The higher you climb, the more the winds hit you. And right now, India is climbing faster than almost anyone else. That's why it's powerful, and that's why it's exposed. Markets respond instantly to Musk's actions, because his reputation alone is enough to shift billions of dollars in value without a single product even being delivered. We're talking about a man whose tweets have made cryptocurrency skyrocket one day and crash the next. Investors don't wait for him to roll out a finished plan. They react to the possibility of what he might do. That's why when Elon Musk turns his attention toward a market as massive as India, the financial world doesn't sit back and observe. It moves fast, sometimes within hours. Confidence, fear, and speculation all collide, and that collision can tilt entire sectors overnight. Take Tesla, for example. The moment Musk even hints about expanding Tesla into a new country, local automaker stocks feel the heat. It's not because cars are suddenly being sold, it's because investors know what Tesla's arrival represents. Competition that changes the rules of the game. If Musk says Tesla is setting up production in India, Tata Motors, Mahindra, and others could see their stock values dip instantly. Not because their cars disappeared, but because the market anticipates what's coming. The expectation alone carries enough weight to shift billions in valuation. Look at telecom. If Musk announces Starlink's expansion into India, Airtel, Jio, and Vodafone would see their share prices react the same day. Markets know that satellite internet bypasses traditional infrastructure, and they know customers would be tempted by a product carrying Musk's brand. Investors don't need to wait for subscriber numbers to rise. They sell or shift money immediately, and that instant reaction shakes the stability of companies that have spent decades building their empires. The energy sector is just as vulnerable. India relies on coal and oil for much of its energy, but Musk's push into solar and renewable solutions always makes headlines. The second he commits to bringing advanced energy storage or solar technology into India, traditional energy companies could see their stocks fall. That's because markets know the narrative changes instantly. Investors prefer the future, not the past, and Musk represents the future every time he makes a move. This speed is what makes Musk dangerous to the unprepared. He doesn't have to actually dismantle industries. The perception of disruption does the job first. Stock markets thrive on speculation, and Musk is the most influential speculator in the modern era. When he speaks, money moves. When he announces, valuations swing. And when he commits, entire industries feel the tremors in real time. That's why markets don't wait for proof when it comes to Musk. They respond instantly. India's response will decide the outcome, because disruption itself isn't destiny. Elon Musk may bring Tesla, Starlink, and his renewable energy empire into India, but whether that move weakens or strengthens the country depends entirely on how India reacts. History shows us that powerful economies don't collapse simply because of competition. They falter when they fail to adapt. Right now, India stands at a crossroads. On one side, there's the risk of letting Musk's influence dominate sectors that millions depend on. On the other, there's the opportunity to use his entry as fuel to innovate, expand, and secure even greater global standards. The deciding factor won't be Musk. It will be India's choices in the days and years that follow. Take the auto industry. If India sees Tesla's arrival as a threat and clings too tightly to the old fuel-driven system, it risks being left behind. But if the country leans into electric vehicles, invests in charging infrastructure, supports local EV startups, and forms smart partnerships, Tesla's presence could push the entire sector forward. Instead of losing, India could become a global hub for EV production, competing with, not bowing to Musk. The outcome here is shaped by action, not fear. The same logic applies to telecom. Starlink can bypass traditional infrastructure, yes, but India still has the advantage of scale and local knowledge. If telecom giants embrace the challenge, integrate satellite technology, or push for innovative partnerships, they can stay relevant in the game. But if they resist, deny, and drag their feet, customers will shift, investors will flee, and Musk's disruption will hit harder. Again, the choice belongs to India's response. Energy is perhaps the most critical arena. Musk will push solar storage and green solutions, and if India clings too tightly to coal and oil, it risks being painted as backward in the global market. But if it adapts, if it welcomes renewable competition while strengthening its own industries, it can position itself as a leader in sustainable growth. India has the talent, the resources, and the ambition. It only needs the will to use them. This is the truth. Musk can only trigger the India decides whether to be drowned by it or to ride the wave. Economies don't crash because of outsiders alone. They crash when insiders fail to rise to the challenge. Musk's entry could either expose India's weaknesses or accelerate its strength. The difference will come from how fast, how bold, and how united India is in its response.